Okay, let's. Okay, so we talked about the parts of the brain. The brain is divided into 3 sections. The first one is called the forebrain. The second one they call midbrain, the midbrain. The third, let's use a green marker for this, it's called the hindbrain. So the first is the forebrain. The forebrain, this is the forebrain. This is the forebrain. While the second is the midbrain. The third is the hindbrain. The meaning of hind, back. All right. Yes, that's the hindbrain. So these are the different parts of the brain: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So those are the key points. From the beginning, from nervous to this place, now we know so we don't get 6 to 7, 8 things. Then, please, this is the second point. Brain. How na it is for brain? I don't vex so you don't enter my head. Thank you. Okay, the second thing we want to know now is the skull is also called the cranium. Another name for skull is called cranium. Another name for skull, it's called the cranium. So the brain is placed inside a bony sac called the skull. So for inside where brain dey, skull, so that is where you find the brain, or cranium. This is another name for the brain, for the skull rather, excuse me. So the skull or the bony sac is called a cranium. That's our second point. Please, let's go together on this video, please, so that you get a better picture of what the nervous system is and the types and the forms and what have you in the particular nervous system. So we know now the brain is divided into forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, and the brain is found inside a bony sac called the skull or cranium. Now, the brain, this is how the picture of the brain now looks like. So inside the brain, this is the surface of the brain. This is inside the brain. On the surface of the brain, there is what we call the gray matter. If they ask you what is found that is surrounded, what surrounds the surface of the brain? What surrounds the surface of the brain? You tell them it's the gray matter. Then inside the brain, I'm telling you, the surface of the brain is surrounded by gray matter. Then the inner part of the brain is surrounded by white matter. So now we don't get on that third point. The first one, brain is divided into forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. 2, the brain is found in a bony sac called the skull or cranium. 3, the surface of the brain is surrounded by gray matter, which is as a result of cell bodies from nerve cells. We'll still talk about that, but I'm just giving key points, not defining them. Key points. The surface of the brain is surrounded by gray matter. The inner part of the brain is formed by white matter, which are nerve cells or axons. Axons, yes. The white matter is made up of axons, nerve fibers, which are called axons. The gray matter is surrounded by, the gray matter surrounds the surface of the brain. So the outside of the brain, now gray matter, the inside of the brain, now white matter. Are we there? So, our fourth point, inside the brain, this particular part of the brain, now they call cerebrum. Cerebrum. I am not going to label it because I am defining some things for you. On our next video, I'm going to bring out a better picture and label them and explain them in details, but these are just key points. So this inner part, the surface I told you is being surrounded by gray matter. The inner part is being formed by white matter, which are axons. So now this particular part we wanna see then divide them. Now they call cerebrum. It is divided into two. So the cerebrum is divided into two halves, which are called cerebral hemisphere. Yes, all the parts from the forebrain to the hindbrain comprises of the cerebrum, which is divided into two halves. The cerebrum is divided into two halves that are called the cerebral hemisphere. So now just like say this one now a bread, let's call this a bread. Let's call this a bread. Excuse me. Let this be our bread. Don't mind my bread, please. Okay. Let's say this is a bread. And let's say we slice it into two. We slice this bread into two. So let's call this our cerebrum. Then this is this is my left. This is my left cerebral hemisphere, and this is my right cerebral hemisphere. So the cerebrum is divided into left and right cerebral hemisphere. So those are the two halves. The cerebrum is divided into the left and right cerebral hemisphere. But if you divide something in the brain, since they are divided, there is something that binds them together. There is something there's something that brings them together, which is called the corpus callosum. They are bonded by this fiber, this corpus callosum. So the corpus callosum is responsible for binding the cerebral hemisphere of the cerebrum. So now we don't get 7 different key points. Now let's go back and review what we've done in this video till this point, and when I come back to the next video, I will explain in details some things that we've said in these videos. Now the nervous system is responsible for coordinating all the body parts in conjunction with the endocrine system so that we get a perfect result on how we respond to external stimulus. So I said the nervous system is divided into two: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is divided into the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system connects the central nervous system to all parts of the body through nerves, and this particular peripheral nervous system is divided into two: the somatic and the autonomic, or spinal and cranial nerves. And we now decided to broaden the scope of our key points by talking about the brain. The brain is divided into what? The forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. The brain also is surrounded, the surface of the brain is surrounded by, the brain is found inside a bony sac called the skull or cranium. The name of a skull, if you see skull, you still call them cranium, skull or cranium. And third, I said the surface of the brain is surrounded by what we call gray matter, while the inner is formed by the white matter. On the length of the brain is this particular spongy division of